Good evening. I do believe I'm live. Hope everyone is doing well. Before I get started, I'm just going to let everybody know if I go dark, if you don't see me just unexpectedly, just give it a little bit of time. So, I got probably some rocky times coming up. So, I'll do what I can. That's all I can do. So, I don't have a lot tonight. I'm going to basically cover what's going on with Biden approving the use of long-range tactical weapons inside of Russian borders. That I think is incredibly important to watch. I made a video earlier today talking about the end of the fear model. And I put a disclaimer in that video because I just had that nagging that I better add in it a disclaimer. And that disclaimer was the only way that I see that projection being off is if we get involved in a world conflict or something comes up that Trump isn't able to be inaugurated on the 20th of January. That could be any number of things. That could be assassination. It could be some type of, legal warfare that they love to play. Could be a number of things, right? I'll tell you what. I've mentioned this I don't know how many times, and it doesn't keep ringing in my head for no reason, and that is the John Teeter story. That just is stuck in my head, and I just always kind of reference what's going on with what I recall from that. And there was one of the things that was said that really, would be something that you want to watch out for. And that's that, when the big war, if you will, happened, they said that, John Teeter had claimed that there was something about the presidency. And I can't remember the exact wording that he used, but he said that it was a little fuzzy or something because it seemed like there was a mix-up between not a mix-up, but some type of an issue between a man and a woman. And so that's something that I kind of stuck in the back of my hat, because that's a pretty particular situation. So I'd always kind of kept an eye on things, and yes, absolutely, in 2016, I did make sure to keep that in the back of my hat because of, obviously, him running against Hillary. And now, in the situation that we're sitting in, I meant to turn the lights blue. I like it when it's darker in here, and I'm just not with it, guys, so that's why I'm going to do my best tonight and gonna boogie, because I just, well, I'm not going to get into it. I just, done. But anyway, I always kept that in the back of my head, and I look at what's going on now, and nobody can really, tell us who's running the president, right, or who's running the country right at this particular time, right? Because, come on. So I could see where there could be some confusion there, when it comes to that particular aspect. Again, pulling from the John Teeter claims I'm not saying they're real. I'm saying that there's a lot of interesting stuff contained into that, and there's an awful long list of things that have turned out just like it was said. So that kind of has its own merit. So I definitely, yes, absolutely, the Watchman. I definitely think it's something to keep an eye on. And before I get into Biden's approval of using long-range weapons inside of Russia, there was a video that Jason A. put out. And it's just absolutely incredible. And it starts out with RFK Jr. I'm interested in your thoughts in that, The Watchman. Divided is in like, oh, sweet. I had a little bit of interaction with Jason A years ago, right when I very first started this channel. There was I remember the name of it now. I was struggling the other night to think of the name of it. It was called the Saving the Truth Movement, and I've still got emails and stuff from it. But yeah, Jason A was part of that. That might have been right about the time that he was getting going too. It's been a bit over a decade ago, just over a decade ago. Now, are you referring to Crimea as the southern seaport? I agree. I think it's going to be split up. I think that pretty much the areas right now that have already voted that they wanted to be a part of Russia, like the Donbass and Zaporozhye region, I think those will go to Russia as well. I think Crimea, Donbass, Zaporozhye, and those are the limits of the names of the places I know in that region. But I think all of that area will probably go to Russia. So. Oh, that was the most awesome movie. Oh wait, I thought you were never mind. I thought you were repeating. That looks awful close to the quote in the movie Airplane. Just so you know. At the beginning of the movie, when the movie's starting up and the two people over the speakers are talking about the yellow line and the red line. Anyway, at first I thought you were cracking a joke. It's not. I apologize. I'm reading is what I'm doing. Sorry, it's a little far away for me to be able to make out now, because I'm going blind. Nah, my eyesight's not that bad, but it's not that great either. I agree with what you said there, especially with Isaiah Chronicles. Absolutely, absolutely. And I agree with you there. What you just said about Trump going to make deals. There's deals that people need to watch, and I agree with you wholeheartedly. I put pretty much no trust in man. I'm gonna be honest. It may sound cynical. It may sound bad. But at this point in my life, I don't have a lot of trust in man. And I think that I think with a lot of things we have an equal amount of good and an equal amount of evil, and that's what I expect. I expect that there'll be a fairly good amount of things happen, and they're going to be big good things, but there's going to be, like you say, some other deals that not so good, not so good. So, but in reality, that's kind of all we can expect out of any president I mean, to be honest, we're not gonna like everything they do, but it is what the wrong things are that are important, and I agree. We need to watch very closely. I have often said that I have a level of concern for Elon as well. I have a lot of respect for the man, his intelligence, his innovativeness. A lot of respect for the man. He is just incredible. But that doesn't mean that it's out of the realm of possibility that he could take a dark path. And he's involved in industries that are pretty concerning for me. I am in support, okay, of the idea, let's say somebody's paralyzed or something like that, and they have the technology to help them walk, help them live as much of a normal life as possible. I am all for that. Make them the $6 million man or woman. I'm all for that. However, we start to enter an area to where very bad things can be done to people, and I think we're really on the border of that now, the verge of that now. So I am concerned about that. But let me get to this video from Jason A. And I was just going to play the first part of it, and then I decided, you know what, after I heard all of the rest of it, I'm like, you know what, I'm going to play that entire video because it's absolutely worth it. I mean, it's just incredible. It's going to start out with RFK Jr., and he gets asked a very interesting question, and that is point blank, is he concerned about, more or less, I'm paraphrasing here, but is he concerned about somebody trying to take him out? And he actually had I don't know, maybe he's a little more used to questioning like that, but that's the first time I've heard him ask that question, and he handled it as calmly and forthcoming as I think humanly possible. I mean, I get why he was asked the question. I'm glad that he was asked the question, because I'm glad to hear his response. But I mean, I don't know how I would react. I definitely wouldn't react with as much, like it's just Tuesday or whatever, like RFK Jr. did. But anyway, let me get to the video, and you can see for yourself. The other part of it is a nice discussion about the Bible and its role in the U.S. government, and very interesting and very factual. So anyway, Jason A.'s video, it's titled "This Just Shocked America 2024-25." He just put it out earlier this evening.
Will, last question.
Hey, Mr. Kennedy, I think you're going to win, and I'm a boomer. You are going after some of the largest entities that exist: big pharma, big agri, big government, the CIA, the FBI. Do you think that means that we elect you, right? Are you going to live? Are they going to come after you?
Well, that's not something, Will, that I worry about. I think there are, I'm not stupid about it. So I have, the government, the White House has denied me Secret Service protection. But I do take precautions, and I have a very good security firm, Gavin DeBecker Associates, that is doing my security right now. So I'm not, stupid about it, but it's not something that preoccupies me. I was raised in a family where we were taught that number one, there's a lot worse things than dying. And one of those things is living like a slave or having our children lose all the freedoms that so many generations of Americans died to give us and to protect during the Revolutionary War. That was a whole generation of Americans that put their lives on the line, their fortunes, their property, their salaries, their reputations, their contacts on a line to purchase us these freedoms. And many of them died. During the Civil War, 659,000 Americans died to keep these freedoms, and we have to be willing, our generation, to make sacrifices to make sure that we don't lose them, and we've seen attacks, unprecedented attacks on our freedom of speech, on our freedom of worship, on all of the amendments of the Constitution over the past 3 years. They're unprecedented. And it's important for everybody to stand up and say, we're not going to do this. We're going to, even if there's some risks involved, reputational risks, salary risks, we need to make sacrifices for our country.
Religion and Christianity are the biggest things missing from this country, and I truly believe that we need to bring them back, and we have to bring them back fast. I think it's one of the biggest problems we have. That's why our country is going haywire. We've lost religion in our country. All Americans need a Bible in their home, and I have many. It's my favorite book. It's a lot of people's favorite book. This Bible is a reminder that the biggest thing we have to bring back America and to make America great again is our religion. Religion is so important. It's so missing, but it's going to come back, and it's going to come back strong, just like our country is going to come back strong.
I was articulated yesterday by a couple of my friends that our country was not founded on Christian principles. So I want to see how, like, an argument that you guys can give me to combat that, because the Declaration only refers to God 4 times, and the Constitution doesn't refer to God at all, and it only articulates the structure of government. Is common law Christian in nature, or is it not?
Remember that we were a collection of states and colonies, and you need to read the state constitutions before anything else. 9 out of 13 of the original states required you to be a Bible-believing Christian to serve in government at the time of the founding. You could, even in actually, 13 out of 13 required a declaration of faith. 9 out of 13 required you to be a Protestant, except Maryland, which was Catholic, which still required a declaration of faith. In almost every single one of the original state constitutions, Pennsylvania included, they had, I profess Lord and Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior in the original state constitutions. So you remember, we're a collection of states before that. Secondly, 55 out of 56 of the original signers of the Declaration were Bible-believing, church-attending Christians. You asked about common law. So common law is inherited from Blackstone, who was Christian. Common law is an outgrowth of the Scriptures. So let's go to 3 principles of common law: due process and jury of your peers, wrapped into the ultimate biblical principle that you shall not favor justice if you are rich or poor, which is in Leviticus 19, right before the most famous part of Leviticus 19, which is that you should love your neighbor as yourself. But before that is that in the administration of justice, you shall not favor the rich or the poor, which is the idea of blind justice. We get that in the West, which is incorporated also in the New Testament ideal: neither slave nor Greek nor Jew, you are all one in Jesus Christ, which we get the idea of human equality. These are all biblical ideas. They're not Enlightenment ideas, which is they kind of get conflated at the time. But more importantly than that, they say that God was only mentioned 4 times in the Declaration of Independence. Well, that's a big deal, okay? Laws of nature and nature's God. The last paragraph of the Declaration reads as a prayer. It says, we appeal to the supreme judge of the universe. Who's the judge of the universe? Jesus Christ, as it says in Revelation, that Jesus will judge the earth on his throne. So in the Declaration, they were praying to Christ our Lord as a prayer very specifically. Thirdly, as I said on the stage yesterday, Deuteronomy was by far the most quoted book, religious or non-religious, in the time of the founding when they were putting together the Constitution, more than John Locke, more than Montesquieu, more than Blackstone. So the book of Deuteronomy, which talked about laws, customs, traditions. It was Moses' farewell address as he's about to say goodbye, say, hey, good luck in Canaan, guys. Here's how you should set up your form of government. But finally, and most importantly, let's look at actually what the founders said. John Adams famously said the Constitution was only written for a moral and religious people. It was wholly inadequate for the people of any other. The body politic of America was so Christian and was so Protestant that our form and structure of government was built for the people that believed in Christ our Lord. One of the reasons we're living through a constitutional crisis is that we no longer have a Christian nation, but we have a Christian form of government, and they're incompatible. So you cannot have liberty if you do not have a Christian population. So that's just a surface level belief. So then they'll go to the First Amendment, which has two parts of the First Amendment which get conflated. First of all, separation of church and state is not in the U.S. Constitution. That is a single letter that Thomas Jefferson wrote in 1807 to the Danbury Baptist Convention in Massachusetts, assuring them that the government would not come after the church, okay, which is the opposite of what they would say. However, that was then resurrected by the Warren Court and the Burger Court in the 60s, where they said, hey, all of a sudden we're now going to make this as if it's the Constitution. It does say in the Constitution two things, which is the Establishment Clause and the Free Expression Clause. The Establishment Clause is that Congress shall make no law prohibiting the free exercise thereof. What they were most worried about was a Presbyterian or a Anglican or a Quaker type religion taking over the federal government. Instead, it was that there is not going to be a state-run religion or a state-run government. Did you know that one of the first acts of Congress was taxpayer-funded Bible printing and distribution? Did you know that there are church services held in the Supreme Court building as late as the Jackson presidency in the 1820s? But going back to this idea of separation of church and state, and again, I could riff on this ad nauseum because it's just so ridiculous, right? Is that it's not biblical because, first, it's not biblical. It's not constitutional because you go a layer deeper. People that even say that, do you believe in separation of morality and state? Nobody does. So all laws are a reflection of morality, and all morality comes from somewhere. There is no such thing as neutral morality. And we believe what the founders believed because they put it in the halls of Congress, they put it in the Supreme Court, and they put it all throughout the country, which is that the Decalogue, the Ten Commandments, is the core morality of how a society and a civilization should exist, right? The Ten Commandments of every person. And finally, and this is the kicker, if the founding fathers were not Bible-believing church-trained Christians, why did they put Leviticus on the Liberty Bell? Not John, not Psalms, not Proverbs, not Genesis, Leviticus. Most Americans can't spell Leviticus. Leviticus 25:19, proclaim liberty throughout the land of which you are in. It is one of the most sinister, most unsubstantiated lies that does not come up against any sort of academic scrutiny, this idea that founding fathers were a bunch of Enlightenment common law deists. The reason they hate it is because the reason they must say this is that if we actually go back to our Christian roots and we go back to where we once were, it's America's best hope for revival and for a great future.
And he is absolutely 110% correct. I never can lay out those arguments very well. In fact, I don't I don't do well in arguments. I don't do well in theology arguments whatsoever. Because I'm not somebody, and I'm glad that I'm not somebody that can just pull scripture out of the thin air and just recite it, because we're not supposed to do that. We're not supposed to take just little bitty snippets and then try to make a whole judgment from a little bitty simple snippet. You have to read. I tell everybody, read the chapter. Read the entire chapter. Don't take any one verse without reading the entire chapter from start to finish. Because if you don't, you're likely being taught that it means just the opposite of what it really does. Okay, so let me go ahead and get started on this run about this the missile situation. This is not good. I've got 6 articles up, all from RT, by the way, and that are covering this. And again, I know there's a lot of people that, oh no, not RT, that's Russia Today. Yep. And I'm still waiting for one person to show me one article that they provided misinformation in. So when I can be shown a single article, and I'm not talking about an opinion piece, I'm talking about an article. When I can be shown an article that is providing misinformation, providing false data, then I will never, ever, it's my solemn promise, I'll never use RT again. But I've tried to do that, just as a challenge to RT. And they will wait. Most of the time when there's a big news story that comes out, they won't post much on it at first. They hold back. And it's like, I think they're purposely trying to make sure that all of their information is correct, because they know they've got a huge target on them. Kind of is what it is. But let me go ahead and take you on over. Biden approves Ukrainian strikes deep inside Russia with U.S. missiles, says New York Times, and it was widely reported. Says U.S. President Joe Biden has reportedly authorized Ukraine to use long-range American missiles to strike targets inside Russia's pre-2014 borders, according to a New York Times report on Sunday citing anonymous American officials. And again, this has been widely reported. There's no dispute on this whatsoever. I thought it was really interesting that shortly after that, Zelensky was set to reveal his new plan. It says Ukrainian leader Vladimir Zelensky will present a resilience plan to the country aimed at lifting morale, the Sunday Times has reported. The initiative comes after his so-called victory plan received a tepid response in Western capitals last month. The latest plan is aimed at a domestic audience, and it takes into account the psycho-emotional state the country is in, Zelensky's top advisor, Mikhail Podolyak, told the British newspaper. We need to show clearly how we will prioritize investment in industry, how the energy sector will function, how we will communicate army mobilization, strengthen physical defense. All the most painful issues relating to the country's sustainability are being worked out, he said. No other details have been revealed, so no need to read deep into this. We have a sip of coffee. Because right shortly after that came out was Zelensky's response to Biden's announcement. Now, Zelensky welcomes reported lifting of U.S. restrictions on long-range weapons. Ukrainian leader Vladimir Zelensky has issued a thinly veiled threat to use U.S.-supplied long-range missiles for strikes deep inside Russia. The statement came after multiple Western news organizations reported that outgoing President Joe Biden's White House had reversed its long-standing policy of not allowing Kiev to use ATACMS missiles to hit targets on Russia's internationally recognized territory. The plan to strengthen Ukraine is the Victory Plan, which I presented to our partners. One of its key points is long-range capabilities for our Army. Today, there's a lot of talk in the media about us receiving permission for respective actions, Zelensky said at the end of his video address released on Sunday evening. But strikes are not carried out with words. Such things are not announced. Missiles will speak for themselves. They certainly will, he added, without elaborating. Okay? So, clearly, he has intent on using them. Now, I would say that a person of average intelligence understands that he needs to use them before January 20th. So I think that's why there's been a rush put on all of this. And, man, here's the thing. Kind of the same unsaid rule applies for Russia. Follow me here. Ukraine knows that once Trump gets in office, that faucet's going to be turned off. That faucet of cash flow. Also the faucet of weapons. He knows that. Putin knows that Trump's all about making the deal. And that if he needs to get heavy-handed, I'm using the word needs there specifically, that he needs to do it before Trump takes office. Because again, I think Trump means what he says. I think that if he tells a nation, hey, look, this is the line. I don't think it's going to be like the red lines that we've been seeing for the past 4 years. Oh, close to 4 years. I think it's going to be a serious red line that if it's crossed, Trump will move. And I think the other leaders have that same understanding too. That's why I'm saying they know. So not to stoke any kind of fear in this situation, but I would say that right now, between now and January 20th, would definitely be a time that you really want to be vigilant, you want to be ready, because this could go so many ways. I will be so happy if we can just make it to the January 20th through the inauguration and everything's copacetic. That would be wonderful. But I think that we better damn well be ready for anything, any possibility between now and then. Clearly, the evil that is in control hasn't gotten the message. So, Moscow, of course, made a response. They said Russian President Vladimir Putin has already shared his thoughts on possible Western approval for Ukraine to carry out long-range strikes deep within Russian territory, Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova has said. According to a report from the New York Times on Sunday, which cited unnamed American officials, U.S. President Joe Biden has given Kiev the green light to deploy long-range American missiles against targets. Sorry for repeating that a million times. The president, talking about Putin, has expressed his opinion on this matter, Zakharova told news outlet RBK on Sunday. In September, Putin stated that Ukrainian forces lack the capability to carry out attacks with Western-supplied long-range weapons without external assistance. It is not a question of allowing the Ukrainian regime to strike Russia with these weapons or not. It's about deciding whether NATO countries become directly involved in the military conflict or not, he said. Putin added that if a decision allowing the strikes were made, Moscow would make appropriate decisions in response to the threats that will be posed to us. So let me make this clear. If Russia decides to, I don't know, send a housewarming gift to Paris, just throwing out a city, you better believe that NATO is going to be all in. And it's going to be on like Donkey Kong. And really, it's hard to project or predict, assume, or anything what that's going to look like, how that's going to unfold. We've only been in this kind of position with another nation one other time in our history, in the country's history, the Cold War. And I don't know how we made it through the Cold War. And in fact, there's reports that really we didn't make it through the Cold War without attempts to launch missiles. From my understanding, there was more than one attempt, and they failed. The missiles wouldn't launch. I don't know if that's true. I wasn't the cat down in the hole turning the key. But there seems to be a lot of reference to a few different incidents to where that happened. And they also involve some strange thing in the sky at the same time. So I'll say that much. We haven't been in that kind of a tension since the Cold War. And I honestly feel like right now, the situation is even more dire than it was then. So again, I don't intend to stoke fear. That's not what I do here. But just, do the things. Make sure your batteries are charged. Make sure all your T's are crossed and your I's are dotted. That's it, right? I'm not somebody that is going to sit there and try to get people all worked up. Don't get worked up unless there's something to be worked up about. Right now ain't it. Right now ain't it. You hear the emergency broadcast tone go off on your phone, that might be a time to be concerned. But right now, it's just important to be aware and as ready as you can be. That's it. But it's not. Never worry yourself over this stuff. I used to be the opposite kind of person, man. I used to be the opposite kind of person. Now I'm like, let the tornado hit. So Musk had something to say. SpaceX CEO Elon Musk, a close confidant of U.S. President-elect Donald Trump, has weighed in on President Joe Biden's apparent decision to yada, yada, yada. And he said in a statement, or he agreed with a post stating libs love war. Let me say that correctly. He agreed with a post stating libs love war. And the article goes on to say, with just 2 months left in office, Biden reportedly gave... It just goes back into... I don't want to keep repeating the same thing. Biden's decision marks a significant escalation in the conflict. While Ukraine has possessed ATACMS missiles since April... Oh, wait, I thought that was his quote. Here it is. Responding to the news on X, Utah Senator Mike Lee, a Republican, declared that libs, or liberals, love war, adding that war facilitates bigger government. True, Musk replied. Goes on to say... Musk is not the only figure in Trump's orbit to condemn Biden's decision, and talks about Richard Grenell, close advisor to the president, who served as acting director of national intelligence in 2020, accused Biden of escalating the wars before he leaves office. That would be correct. And it says the military-industrial complex seems to want to make sure they get World War III going before my father has a chance to create peace. This is from, obviously, Donald Trump Jr. Create peace and save lives, says Trump's son Donald Jr. wrote on X. Gotta lock in those trillions. Life be damned, imbeciles. So, and we do actually have his statement here coming up. It's right here. It says U.S. President-elect Donald Trump's eldest son, Donald Trump Jr., lashed out at the Democrats following reports that ongoing President Joe Biden had allowed Ukraine to use American-made long-range missiles to strike internationally recognized Russian territory. Trump Jr., who campaigned alongside his father during the 2024 presidential election, has been helping him pick members of his future cabinet, did not mince words on social media. He said what I quoted earlier. I'll say it again. It's a good statement. Military-industrial complex seems to want to make sure they get World War III going before my father has a chance to create peace and save lives. He wrote on X Sunday, gotta lock in those trillions, life be damned, imbeciles. So, I can't argue his stance. Sounds to me like he's 110% correct. Like I say, all I can say is just be ready, whatever that looks like for you. Don't run around the house with your hair on fire screaming. But whatever it looks like for you, be ready. Most of my stuff is pretty well good to go in it at any time, but I'm going to be honest with you. I've got a radio right here, and then there's one right behind Jen that's all set up and ready for her to go. my radios are normally on the radio bags in the kitchen. They've got a couple clips on a shelf that they hang from. So they're not anything to get to. They're specifically put there so I can go there and grab, along with other things that I may need to grab real quickly as I run out. So normally they reside on the radio bags, but right now they're not even on the radio bags. Why? I don't know. Why not? It's really not anything big. I mean, it could be something big, right? But just to take that extra little step, just to make sure, because communication is important. And so to take that extra step, just to have things ready. I came in here, was it yesterday morning or this morning? I don't even remember. I did get video of it, though. Hang on. Haha. I don't know. It drives me crazy when I don't remember something like that. Yesterday morning. So yesterday morning, I came in here, and I sat down. I'm drinking my coffee. I'm going through content on the computer. And I just happened to look over as I saw a bright flash, heard a loud explosion, and saw smoke rising off a transformer. That's not super uncommon here. That's actually the second time I've caught a squirrel getting smoked by a transformer. The second time since we lived here that I just happened to turn my head as a squirrel gets smoked. And it's not the good kind of smoke. You probably don't want to eat it. But you just never know. I mean, that's just kind of one of those bizarre things. It happens fairly often around here. We've got a lot of squirrels. And when I say around here, I mean the town, not just my neighborhood. But yeah, I would say probably most power outages are due to poor squirrels. So anyway, just be ready, whatever that looks like for you, right? But just don't let it affect you in a negative way, that you're involved in negative behavior, whether it be charging a bunch of money on credit cards to buy a bunch of stuff that people tell you need, to being emotionally distraught and non-functioning, if you will. There's a time to actually worry, and you have to see evidence presented to you for that. In my opinion, I think you take the preparations that you need. As I always tell people, be sure that you're in a position to respond rather than react. So make sure that you have the skills you need, have the things you need, so that you can properly respond, right? Otherwise, you're just reacting. And when you react, not only can you make very brash decisions, but you may not have the tools or other things that you need to be able to function properly. So be in a position to be able to respond. And that's why I've got the radios. My med pack, it's on the clip right next to where the radios go. So, and that's my IFAC. So I could run that way and have my IFAC in 2 seconds. And then not far from the IFAC is, I think it's an M17 bag or something they call it. It's a medical, like a military-styled medical pack that's got all kinds of goodies in it. And I mean all kinds of goodies. And that way, if I need something a little more advanced, which I'm going to be honest, I'm not that guy. And I've said this a million times. I'll say it 1,010 times. That if you're in bad medical, need, and you see my face over top of you, I'm sorry, because I'm gonna do what I know with what little knowledge I have, but I ain't no doctor, so not even. I'm pretty sure I'm qualified to put on a Band-Aid, but no, I did have CPR and first aid and stuff like that, but nothing beyond that. So Um, I do know how to use, I do know how to use a tourniquet effectively and quickly. Yes, it's staged in the whole 9 yards, ready to go. And I could probably, if absolutely had to, and I do have sutures, I could probably sew somebody up, but it's not going to be the right way. It's not going to be with the proper knot, and it probably ain't going to look good. If I can't sew fabric worth a damn by hand, I'm pretty sure skin's not going to be any easier. So especially by somebody without anesthetics that's screaming and trying to pull. So, anyway. No, just whatever ready looks like to you. Again, because of the home we live in, it's small. I mean, so there's really no way to tuck anything away to where we can't get to it. There's not enough house to do that. But we can move pretty quickly if we need to, including bugging out. And that's whether bugging out just with our bug out bags or bugging out and taking everything with us. We can do either one relatively quickly. Of course, we can pretty much walk out with bags. But I would say 15 minutes, we could be out, not a problem, and be able to take food, be able to take our supplies, and the whole 9 yards, because that's the way things are set up for. Again, everything was put in place to be able to respond, not react, and that's what I recommend that people do. It's really about all I have. I was just going to cover that one thing because that is the overshadowing news of the day. By far, it is absolutely insane what they, those, them is trying to get us involved in before January 20th. So, just keep vigilant. Don't worry. Don't, just be vigilant. And, understand that there is I don't know what to call the only thing I want to call them is evil. There is an evil in control that's going to do every damn thing it can to stay in control. So regardless of what happens on the top end of this nation, meaning the presidency, Congress, and all of that, we need to focus on the bottom of our nation, which is our own sphere. That's what we need to focus on. Because especially if something big goes down, we probably ain't going to hear much or know much from the top. But the ones that you're going to need to rely on and need to rely on you are going to be the ones in your local vicinity. I'll say it again, and I've said this a lot of times here too. The people that are most important to you isn't what you necessarily may think of at the moment. You could be put in a position to where the people most important to you are the ones that are in walking distance. And that's probably a statement that a lot of people need to think about for a little bit. Because it's true. If something major were to go down, we were to lose everything, we'd lose fuel, internet, power, all that. Just done. The people most important to you are going to be those within walking distance. Remember that. I am out of here for tonight. God willing, I will be back tomorrow night. We'll do it again. Hope y'all have a good evening. Shalom.